Good afternoon, everybody. I hope we're all well. Give me one moment. Hi. Firstly, I would like to just say thank you very much for joining the webinar today. I'm Kurt Martinison. I'm the solutions leader here at Nuaware. Today, we'll be exploring Docker, the containerization tool. This lesson is being recorded. We're going to start with an overview of Nuaware, who we are, what we do, DevSecOps, and then Docker. We will also close with a Q&A. So if anybody has any questions or anything like that, there is a chat. Please do use it. I'll answer all the questions towards the end. Yeah, perfect. So firstly, Nuaware. So Nuaware are DevSecOps distributors. We work with some of the biggest names in DevSecOps globally. The likes of Docker, HashiCorp, Black Duck, Sysdig. We also have Mirantis and others as well. We were founded in 2016. We were founded in London in the UK, based off what our previous founders, the work they did at Puppet. In 2020, we were acquired by Exclusive Networks. So we are an Exclusive Networks company. You might have worked with Exclusive Networks before. We're a part of the Exclusive Networks group. We have a global team that work all across the world. We have 3 offices. Our main office is in London. We also then have 2 satellite offices. We have one in Portland, in Oregon, in the United States, and one in Melbourne, here in Australia, which is where I sit. What the goal for us to do, the goal for us today is really talk to you guys about DevSecOps, get an understanding of it, and then push you into Docker as well. So I wanted to start today by just a quick understanding. Some of you might have seen this already before. Some of you might have heard about it. DevSecOps, CI/CD pipelining. What is it? What could it be? So DevSecOps it's an understanding and it's a move forward from continuous integration and continuous deployment, which is this circle of software development. So we start from planning. So what are we doing? What are we trying to code? What is the app that we're trying to build? We then code it, we build it, we test it. We then release that code in containers into the cloud. And then obviously that's deployed, we operate and monitor it, and then obviously plan for any changes. This way of moving and this way of software development is called the Agile framework. Typically before, you guys might have seen it before as well, there was what was called the waterfall framework, which was very much a linear type of framework. You did one project, then move to the next, then move to the next, then move to the next. Whereas DevOps is completely fluid and it's agile in that it's constantly happening. Moving through it, obviously we've kind of spoken about that a little bit already. Moving through it, we want to incorporate as much security and security throughout. As you can see, for us, security is one of the biggest parts of what we do as well. Nuaware cover all 3 branches of the development process, covering development, security, operations. We also have a solution at every step of the process. So again, starting with that, we're going to look at application security. So again, this is a big part of what we do. We want to ensure that the application is secure. It's vital to ensuring the company remains, the IP in the company, as well as the data, remains as secure as possible and compliant. Tools like SAST, which is Static Application Security Testing, and DAST, which is Dynamic Application Security Testing, as you can see, those 2 there. They analyze and scan source code, which is what the developers are actually typing and what they're actually working on, and it flags any vulnerabilities. Typically, one of the biggest things that we would maybe also scan for is open source vulnerabilities. So open source code is estimated at between 70 to 90% of overall code base. So there's a big part of it, of application security under SAST and DAST, that sits in that open source space that our systems and Black Duck, which I'll get into in a moment, can scan for. We've also got their SynApp, which is Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. So we do work with the SynApp tooling. This is for runtime protection. So this is after release when it's been deployed, and the protection is guarding against attacks, for example, a container security attack. Moving into automation. Obviously, a massive part of DevOps is automation and AI. Automating as many operations as possible, like repeatable tasks. So anything that is repeatable and can be automated, we can look to automate that, as well as IAC, or infrastructure as coding. Some of those automated workflows, for example, through Terraform, we can look at doing that as well to automate as much as we can, to again push as much as we can as fast as we can. Containerization in Kubernetes. So under containerization in Kubernetes, we're utilizing containers as part of the move to the CI/CD pipeline. The way that we use containers is because they offer portability, and we can destroy and build containers as and when we choose to do it, and as many times as we want to, utilizing Kubernetes, instead of using the older monolithic architecture, which it was when the application was built on a VM and it was all housed in the same application stack. Whereas through containerization in Kubernetes, we're able to split everything up. Compliance and resilience. Observability and cloud monitoring are both essential for maintaining the health and performance of cloud-based applications, as well as the infrastructure as well that those applications sit on. Things like log management is a great way of doing that. That's the process of collecting, storing, and analyzing all of the data, managing that in the log. That is obviously then also data generated. We've also got things that sit in resilience and operations under the SRE, for example, which are chaos engineering. So chaos engineering is one of those amazing tools that we use, Gremlin, for us. And what it does is it goes into the system and it will randomly just break something within the application. And then our team, or the automated team, whatever that might look like, then have to go in and fix that. Typically, we'd see that at towards the end, where your customers have already done a lot of DevOps and they really want to get into the resilience of their application, but it is something that we work with as well. Application security. So going into it, this is some of the vendors that we're going to be touching on now. For application security, I recommend Black Duck for their DAST and SAST option. They also have a great SRM, which is basically a resource manager that you can scan across all of your security tools. It's a great piece of kit that we utilize. Sysdig as well, so that is the cloud and container security. They also do monitoring as part of that operations piece as well. Again, we can get into that. Then automation and AI. So when it comes to automation and AI, there's a few options that we have in this space. For us, and a big one for I think the majority of your customers, will be Terraform, which is the infrastructure as coding tool from HashiCorp. That is able to create workflows as well as any policies that they might be interested in to push out as much as possible. Launch Darkly is a feature flagging tool, and you're also able to do rollbacks as well. So for example, if there's a release that you do on a Friday and there's a problem with the coding or anything like that, you can actually roll back that release. So for any of your customers that don't release on a Friday, or they have specific release times because they're worried about code breaking or anything like that, Launch Darkly is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to talk to them. Containerization, obviously, we'll be touching on Docker today. Kubernetes, we also have some Kubernetes tooling. Kubernetes is the management tool for containers. And then compliance and resilience. So for the compliance piece and the resilience piece as well, we've got PagerDuty. So for anybody that's interested in looking at PagerDuty, or you're looking at how your IT systems are working together, or we're looking to automate any of that, we can look at PagerDuty. And Gremlin, I've already touched on slightly in the chaos engineering space. A great piece of tooling. SREs absolutely love it. Persona selling. So this, I wanted to have this slide on here because at every point across the software development lifecycle, there are stakeholders and different personas within them. At every point throughout this, whether that be the developer and infrastructure teams, whether that be the engineering team, whether it be the operations team or the cybersecurity team, we are speaking to everybody across the board when it comes to software development, and we have something for them, which means that you guys also have something for them. So any of your customers that are doing software development, or they're looking at creating an application, or they're utilizing apps or anything like that, you can come speak to us, and we can obviously speak to them about what might work best for them. But across the board, I guarantee if you've got certain stakeholders within your accounts, we'll be able to speak to them about something. Nuaware's value proposition. So obviously we are a distributor. We are here to support you guys as well as the vendors that we have. So partner enablement, we can support you with vendor onboarding and vendor training as well. Marketplace transactions, we have AWS and GCP private offers. So for example, if you guys might have heard of certified offers or private offers on AWS, we're able to facilitate those transactions. So if there's any problems that you guys are having with these vendors, or you're in a situation where you need to utilize AWS billing, we can work with you on that, and it'll work with your customer as well. Sales and marketing support. Obviously, if you need any support on sales calls, we also do get the vendors involved at technical levels. Any quote support, we always advise when quoting, or what base points to use or anything like that. Marketing materials, again, we've got some that we create in-house. We also work with the vendors on their marketing materials. Webinar and event support, events like this, more than happy to support with that. Financing, we can offer extended payment terms, partner financing, and then end customer financing as well. Obviously that would need to be approved, and it's on a deal by deal basis, but it's definitely something that we can talk about. Right, moving on. Docker at a glance. So Docker 1.0 to Docker 2.0. Docker have been around since they were founded in 2010. They were a development house that created containerization, and they also were the first to really pioneer it. They have gone through multiple stages. I think they've gone through a few key stages. So in 2013, there was a deal that they did with Red Hat and Microsoft. Docker Desktop is released in 2016, which is their main tooling. It's also the main piece of the suite that Docker owns as part of its product set, which we'll get into. In 2019, Mirantis, which is a separate containerization company, which Nuaware work with as well, purchased Docker Swarm. They only purchased one part of it, which was the engine, which was the runtime piece, whereas Docker still then have Docker Desktop as well as a suite of other products as well. In 2020, Docker basically said, we're moving from open source. Before 2020, all of their licensing was completely open source and you could use it as much as you wanted. After 2020, they made the decision to build business and teams licensing, Business is typically for enterprise customers and anybody utilizing over 100 Teams licenses. And Teams is built for more smaller divisions and, one-off 8 pods, that kind of thing. So there's 2 licensing options, but again, we'll touch on that in a moment. What then happened is that they had a load of customers that purchased as part of this buy to comply, as part of the compliance piece. That Docker 2.0, that's very much up until 2020, that was Docker 1, right? Docker 2.0, it's more about a value-based go-to-market, right? They want to be able to speak to customers. They want partners to get involved to help extend that market reach, as well as strengthen product offerings that Docker already have. So what we're looking to do really is enhance the customer experience with tailored solutions that you guys can work with Docker on creating. So what is Docker? So Docker is a suite of products that help teams build, share, and run applications utilizing containers. It's not just a tool, it's a platform designed to improve the return on investment by making applications development times faster, more consistent, and scalable. We'll start with the first one, which is packaged applications and dependencies. Containers bundle applications with their dependencies, which basically means fewer compatibility issues, right? It also supports modular development, so in independent scaling and faster maintenance cycles. So without getting too into it, it's a lot easier to utilize this kind of tooling instead of those individual pieces. This, of course, leads to accelerated development and reduced time to market. Application portability. So to extract the OS from hardware means that applications run consistently across different environments. I can run applications in a container across any different cloud or anything like that, because or on Linux or Mac or Windows, because it doesn't matter what OS is, because all of the applications and dependencies are built into those containers. It works on my machine, basically. It works everywhere. The isolation as well. So containers are isolated in that apps don't interfere with each other or the host system. It makes it easier to reproduce and debug issues. If there's an issue with one set of the development piece, we can just kill that development piece and then re-architect it and reship it or redeploy. This leads to faster troubleshooting, enhanced security, and higher uptime percentages. So anybody looking for like 5 or 6 nines, this is the realm that we're talking about, especially under your SREs. Efficient and light. So it basically shares a host OS kernel, right, without getting too into it. So this uses fewer resources than a traditional virtual machine, and you get more containers on an individual server, which is better for cost efficiency. The other thing that you might have heard about as well is pets and cattle. So dealing with virtual machines or monolithic architectures, or however you're dealing with it, or even bare metal, is considered a pet because it's a lot of work, you need to do a lot of maintenance, there's a lot of one-to-one time. Whereas cattle under containerization, if anything happens with it, you just destroy it and then rebuild it. Typically as well, depending, again, going back to the automation piece, typically what you might also find is by utilizing your Kubernetes, that's already done for you. So Docker's inner and outer loop. Docker isn't just about containers. It's about delivering applications faster, more securely, and with fewer errors. So just some big numbers for you here. So 400 times faster with first production push, drastically shortens the time to deliver your first working feature. these are some of the numbers that you're going to be hearing. 13 times increased release frequency means that instead of doing, again, those one big pushes, we get multiple pushes as much as we want, which means faster updates and better innovation. 99% reduction in commit to deployment time, which is near real-time deployment. And then 84 times faster time to repair, which means quick recovery. Again, we spoke about that, and reduces downtime and improves reliability. And then we also have a 7-time reduction in change failures. So any high stability and post-release issues, there's 7 times reduction in fixing those. Just as well, while I'm on this, the inner loop is anything that is done before a push, a commit, or a deploy, whatever terms you might have heard. This is very much the start of the CI/CD pipeline. And then this would be the end of it under the deployment piece, where it's integrated, tested, and then obviously it then exists. While I'm speaking as well, guys, please don't forget any questions or anything like that. Just pop them in the chat and I'll answer them towards the end. So developers love Docker. Docker isn't just a trend or something that you might be thinking, oh, I'll sell this once and then move on. Docker is here to stay. It's the most trusted tool among developers worldwide. It was ranked the #1 most wanted and most loved developer tool. That was in a Stack Overflow survey back in 2024. It also has a massive growing community. 26+ million monthly active IPs on the Docker Hub, which is obviously broad active, and then it adds to that adoption. 15 million ready to run applications are available, which obviously accelerates that development. And it also has, so Docker has around 15.4 million monthly active developers utilizing Docker. So those developers are definitely in your accounts. It's just about understanding who they are and then being able to speak to them. It gives you a rough idea of the market as well. So Docker is trusted by businesses. Docker is utilized across majority, if not all, industries. Obviously on screen, I've got a few there, notably in banking, Barclays, Goldman Sachs, in tech, there's absolutely loads of big names that you might recognize. Microsoft, Netflix, Google. In the automotive space, BMW, Volkswagen. Telcos as well. There's a lot of work that we do with telcos under AT&T, and there's a few others that obviously aren't on there. Docker's efforts have been validated by the development community as well. It's got over 79,000 customers that trust Docker. 70% of the Fortune 100 customers are Docker customers. And Docker is active in over 200 countries. Docker have an open ecosystem. So it's a completely trusted ecosystem, and it's there to accelerate the innovation and reduce the risks for businesses. There's trusted content on the Docker Hub. There's over 170 official Docker images. With 40+ certified publishers that could be across multiple things like Grafana, for example, New Relic, which you guys might have heard of. There is over 700 Docker extensions, which boost the productivity by integrating directly into the development workflows that are already existing. So, and the other piece as well, a lot of vendors that we see come to market, a lot of new vendors, will automatically plug in with Docker because of their open system as well, because it's seen that that's how to do it. Partnerships, obviously, one of the biggest partnerships that they have is with us for Nuaware. They are also looking for more partners to make scaling and onboarding for their customers easier and faster. Before we get into any of the solutions or some of the product sets and things like that, I wanted to align on the challenges that many of your customers may be facing today and some of the issues that impact the developers and their teams and their leaders. So firstly, we'll go into managing productivity. There's a few things in this. Firstly, it can be a complex environment, and the environment itself can be a hard configuration. Inconsistencies with setups, dependency conflicts, as I said before, containers are own a dependency themselves, and version drift with unexpected errors. Long ramp times. New developers take up a lot of time to get them up to productivity, and lack of agility, slow response to any changes and any kind of processes that might be happening within the business. This obviously leads to delays to time to market, lower innovation, and frustrated teams, which is what we do see as well, that lack of agility. And then if that frustration leads to possibly the teams leaving as well. Increased security vulnerabilities. So open source risks, as I said, 70 to 90% of those of open source is part of coding, is part of the code. So any undetected or unpatched vulnerabilities might be sitting within that code set that's deployed. Late security features as well. So some of you guys might be aware of the terming shift left security, which is moving security as far into the development process as possible, utilizing things like Black Duck through AppSec. Whereas if we're finding those security fixes later, we're having to deal with it later, we're getting pushback from the security team. The developers are also frustrated as well. It can cause multiple issues, as well as all of the time that the security team is charging. Slow application delivery. So obviously any kind of manual environment setup, having to deal with your own like container engines and things like that. Cloud migration challenges as well. Traditionally, if you've got any on-prem applications that are tightly coupled, moving those over can be quite an issue. And then production instability and poor visibility as well. One change can break other components. We're looking at doing that in a modular way. So how can Docker solve this? Docker's value to businesses can be summarized in three outcomes: increased productivity, stronger security, and faster innovation. Increased productivity to reduce cost. Developers build, run, and collaborate faster utilizing Docker, which means shorter development cycles. It also frees up the resources to focus on what they need to focus on with the application, which leads to better ROI. Secure developer environments and applications. Admins can set and enforce policies for security consistency. That can basically happen at a higher level, which then secures across the developer environments, images, and applications. So the security teamers know, and leaders within the business know that these applications are being done securely. It also lowers the risks of breaches. And then finally, accelerating innovation to unlock revenue. Obviously, if we are utilizing CI/CD practices and adoptions to push for new technology, it means that there's less firefighting and more innovation, which leads to quicker times to which leads to quicker value. Use cases for Docker. So this is one of those pieces that I think is very, very very important because it goes through multiple pieces that you guys might be already working on. Some of these projects like digital transformation, moving to the cloud, moving into microservices, any of that. This is where you guys can look at what you can bring to your customers. So Docker is used across industries for a range of development strategies. So these are some of the common use cases that we see. Legacy application modernization. So this is running containerizing old applications to make them portable and cloud ready. There's faster modernizations at lower cost because there's no need for extensive refactoring. Improved deployment efficiency. So if there's seamless integration with CI/CD pipelines and automated builds and testing and development, it means that there's higher deployment successes and then fewer rollbacks, which means we can develop and the developers can develop faster. Improved developer experience. By standardizing development environments, there's no more of that, it works on my machine, so I don't understand why it doesn't work for QA. It solves that problem by standardizing the environments. It also leads to a quicker onboarding and quicker collaboration for the developers to just get started up and utilize it. The other thing is, as we know, Docker is one of the most utilized tools for developers, so it's the easiest one for them to just jump back into. And then one of the biggest ones for me is the adoption of microservices, which I have touched on, which is running services in isolated containers, which leads to fewer conflicts and improved security. This is ideal for multi-tenant architectures and any scaling of modern apps that your customers are looking to do. So there's a few things here, and this is just giving you an idea of the market. The demand for modern software is higher than ever before, and these are the industry trends that we wanted to highlight. So there's a massive demand for new applications. 750 million new applications are predicted in 2025. And then obviously this leads to a lot of competitive pressure to improve quickly and faster. Talent shortages. 64% of IT executives say that hiring shortages are a major concern, and that was from Gartner. And security risks rising. So 7.5 times increase in software supply chain attacks year on year. Again, some of that is the open source piece. Some of that is supply chain attacks. Now that we've understood the problem, how we're looking to fix it, let's dive into the suite of Docker products that you guys can look to sell to your customers. So here's the complete suite, and we'll go into it in a little bit. I'll give you a line or two on each. So Docker Desktop, that is built for developer and business velocity. That's the main Docker piece which we'll touch on. The Docker Hub, which is the world's largest container registry or repo. This is where all of those images and everything like that sit, that they can be pulled. Docker Scout is a software supply chain tooling that simplifies the supply chain security. Test Container Clouds enables reliable integration testing. This is where you can actually test the applications that are in your containers as if you were pushing it to its environment. And then Build Cloud as well. So this accelerates your build cloud capabilities. If, for example, you're on a laptop and your build requires a lot more CPU or anything like that, you can utilize, well, the developers can utilize Docker Build Cloud. So moving into the solution side of it. So again, this is touching on the individual products that Docker sell. Docker Desktop being one of the biggest and one of the core product pieces. So Docker Desktop is the fastest and most secure way to containerize applications, helping developers move from code to running containers in minutes. It's built for speed and security. It was built with a quick to set up. It's just downloaded and developers can start building immediately. It's simple to maintain. It's maintained by Docker, which means that it reduces the operational overhead. Secure from the start. Security is built into the Docker Desktop platform, and it's easy to scale. It works for individual developers if you're working on or any of your customers are working on simple individual development teams, or for larger enterprise teams like, for example, Netflix, which Docker work with. So obviously it is trusted again by 70% of Fortune 100 customers, which is a proven enterprise adoption. It also helps streamline development and the development process. And it's a consistent development experience that your developers will get used to and probably know already. The Docker Hub. So Docker Hub is the world's largest container registry, so that repo that we talked about, making it faster and safer for teams to find, share, and deploy containerized applications. One of the other pieces as well, just while we're touching on Docker Hub, when we talked about policies and group policies that you can enforce on your developers, one of the things that it might be is that you can only download or push certain things from the Docker Hub and only from the Docker Hub, which gives them better policies and better oversight. Scale and adoption. So there's over 60 petabytes worth of images that are stored and 24 billion monthly image downloads from the Docker Hub. There's also a marketplace, there's compliance and control, which I touched on. There's also verified content from trusted Docker verified advisors, which reduces the security risk. And then obviously there's secure repos as well. The Docker Scout, this is the supply chain security piece. So Docker Scout helps you address security issues before they reach production, ensuring a secure software supply chain from the development to the deployment. It's got a centralized view, that unified dashboard to identify security and reliability issues early. It's got a recommended workflow as well with policy evaluations for outdated databases, licensing risks and security vulnerabilities. It's also got quality gates and remediation guidance, so it ensures only secure and approved images move forward. Continuous improvement as well. It's got an in-depth image analysis directly in Docker Desktop, the CLI, and scout.docker.com. Ongoing feedback loop, so it improves the security decisions throughout the development lifecycle. Again, going through that shift left, moving security as much into that into the development process as we can. This obviously reduces the risk of any costly security breaches. It also maintains compliance and government requirements depending on the kind of government and things like that you're working on. It also accelerates secure releases. Docker Build Cloud. So I touched on this slightly. So Docker Build Cloud speeds up slow image builds by leveraging cloud resourcing. So instead of building on your local machines like your laptop or your PC that developers might be utilizing, they can create a container, basically a container within cloud and within Docker's cloud, and then utilize that to create their build, utilizing that resourcing. This typically means 39 times faster builds, especially depending on the size of the builds that they're working on. And it has saved at least 1 hour saved per developer per day, which is absolutely incredible if you think about that over the course of a week or even a month or even a year. Yeah. Test container clouds. So this is one of those, we're moving through into the deployment phase now. So test container clouds allows developers to run reliable real-world integration testing at scale. So what you're able to do is you're able to utilize your current environment in a test container cloud environment. So when you push anything, you can see if there's anything else is affected when your application is pushed. It's scalable and on-demand testing. It has resource efficiency. There's no heavy local infrastructure because it's all tested in the cloud. It also simplifies the CI integration. It's running tests constantly and in CI and in your team's environments. Docker hardened images. This is one of these the security tools for Docker, and it's one of the things that they are really pushing right now. It's the last release that they had. So Docker hardened images, or DHI, which is combined developer-friendly workflows with enterprise-grade security, helping you scale secure software development without slowing down innovation. It's built-in security from day one. It's ultra minimal footprint, which means that there's near zero CVEs and up to 90% reduction in attack surfaces. Every image is signed, verified, and continuously maintained. There's also a 7-day remediation SLA for any critical and high-level CVEs patched within the week. It's compliant without slowing the teams. It includes SBOMs, which is a software bill of materials, and prevalence SLSAs, compliance, and digital signatures. So it supports all security and audits and regulatory requirements. It's operationally efficient as well at scale. There's no need to maintain custom base images, which reduces DevOps maintenance burden. It's directly available in the Docker Hub, and developers can use secure images where they already work. The faster and safer inner loop. So remember when we talked about earlier, we talked about the inner loop and the outer loop. This is a visualization of that, as well as how Docker products interact with each other throughout the development process. So we're going to start with our Docker develop. This is our little developer here, and we're gonna start him on a Windows desktop, standard laptop, more or less what I'm using right now. We're going to download the base image from the Docker Hub registry. Now again, this could be set by policy. It could be Docker hardened as well. We're then going to create the app code. We can do that either on the laptop or we might do it in the cloud. We would then validate our app as we're moving through the process. We can validate our app using Docker Scout. We then build the application in build cloud because it's getting too big now for our local laptop. So we move it into the build cloud phase. As we move through the CI/CD pipeline, we're now getting into testing. So we need to test our app, and we utilize test container clouds to do that. And then what we're also going to do is, now that we've built something, we've built a golden image, we're then able to share that application or that code base with other developers in the Docker Hub, in the Docker repo. What we can also do as well is that can be public or that can be private. So anything that we want to keep privately in-house, we can do that on our private Docker Hub. And then that just keeps going around and around, and we'll move throughout that process multiple times. The Docker Hub, the Docker Mariner Partner Program, obviously we want to work with you guys, we want to work with partners. This is a quick overview of what the program looks like. What Docker are looking for is partners that are working on any kind of digital transformation, or maybe you guys know the the stakeholders within certain businesses, you know for a fact they're utilizing containerization. If they are, I guarantee you almost 100% they are using Docker. Have you spoken to them about it? Would you like to speak to them about it? We can support you. Docker can support you as well. We just want those introductions. You can also join Docker's ecosystem. I'll touch on that in a moment. It's always complementing your offer as well. So again, when we talked about some of that monolithic architecture piece, moving to monolithic architecture, you might be utilizing, or you're looking to utilize containers anyway. We can complement that offering and then obviously get them on Docker and sell the Docker licensing. We also have access to exclusive benefits depending on your Docker levels, and we can also support you upskill your Docker team, your team on Docker. Partner tiers, there is 3 tiers, and we work with partners to move them through the process as well. Registered partners, this is just registered online. We can work with you on that. And then authorized partners, there's some marketing support. They get an additional discounts and margins based on what you might be working with. And there's also deal registers as well. And then preferred partners, we already have some preferred partners, but we're always on the lookout for more, and depending on the use cases and things like that, that is only by invitation, but we will definitely have the conversation. The partner portal, obviously we will go through this on a, with your teams, depending on what you're looking at doing. But within the partner portal, you will see the typical sales and marketing campaigns around Docker, around their utilization, around some of their product sets, like Scout, for example. You can also utilize this to deal reg and any technical details that you're looking for. Again, we can support with that, working with Docker as well. Accreditations, so obviously your team can work on getting accreditations. We recommend definitely the sales accreditation. There are 3 accreditations that are offered on Docker. So a Docker desktop sales accreditation, a Docker Scout sales accreditation, as well as they're currently working on a pre-sales accreditation as well, which will eventually you'll be able to take. Next steps, obviously moving forward, and obviously I'll have the Q&A, but the next steps, depending on what you guys want to do, you can join the Marinier Docker program. You can sign up with Docker directly. You will obviously end up working with us. Or, and this is what I suggest connecting with me or Nishan for a follow-up about what you're trying to do, what you think, what customers you think you currently have. We can do some account mapping. You should schedule a follow-up session. You can email us directly, or you can click that link. The webinar, again, will also be recorded. So if there's any questions that you have, you can jump on. Any questions that you might have, you can ask us here. Your APAC team. So this was obviously for us in Australia, Singapore, more or less the same. So there's 2 of us across the APAC team that we currently have. So I am based in Australia. I'm based here in Melbourne. Please, hit me up for coffee. And then Nishan is based in India. Not India, sorry, in Sri Lanka, but he takes care of the Indian market as well. So please do reach out to us. Depending on where you guys sit, you'll work with both of us as well. I think that's more or less it. Did anybody have any questions for me? Feel free to drop a note in here. No? Perfect. You guys learned everything that you need to learn in one presentation. You're very welcome. I'll just give you guys a couple minutes to ask any questions that you might want answered. Just trying to think of typical questions I get. Oh, so typical questions that I get. Obviously, working with Docker, what do the margins look like? What is what's the standard kind of margin? So for any kind of transactional deal, that's where Docker's bringing the deal. You'll receive 5%, as just as a run rate standard 5%. You also receive an additional 5% on any deal regis that you guys might have. Docker do also have discounts for customers, depending on what they're doing in their licensing and things like that. There's two main licenses that we focus on. Docker Business. So with Docker Business, there is from 25 licenses up, and you have to have business under the compliance piece. You have to have business if the company has over 10 million revenue, or over, I believe, if I remember correctly, 200 employees. They have to have business licensing. Teams, Docker Teams, again, it's around a smaller license model, so it's built for like 20 to 30 roughly, or anything kind of lower than that, yeah. And then that's built up to 100 users. Once they hit that 100 users, we would look to transition them over to Docker Business, basically. And I think that's more or less it. Unless anybody had any questions, feel free. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. What do I typically get? No. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody that has attended and that has stuck around to the end as well. Please do reach out if you would like to discuss Docker, Nuaware, or any of the vendors that we spoke about here today, or I spoke about here today. I look forward to working with you all in the future. Oh, yes. Bye, Alberta. Is that hi or bye? Thank you, Alberta. Thank you, Albert. Oh, yeah. Albert, if you've got a question, just pop it into the chat. Nope, all good. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.